So guys, the other week, I came down here and it was heavily flooded, and it's all drained away now, which is kind of good. Well, pretty much actually. I've just flown the drone over, and it was deep. I mean, all that water over there to the right of this river was up to the bank, pretty much. So it had to be a metre deep over there, and all the way along and round the bend to the left. Can't remember how high this was, but I think it was very high. It's a bit of a weir, isn't it? But apparently, you get kingfishers around here. So I'm going to have a little walk along here and see what's what. I find that's quite cool, isn't it? Let's have a look. We have a weir. It's called a weir. Nice little garden there. Yeah, let's wander down here a little bit and see what we can see. Not sure we will see. I think it'd probably be best to come down really early in the morning. But there was, last time when I flew here when the floods were, there was a gentleman here with a spotting scope, obviously looking for birds and stuff like that. And I spoke to him and he said, yeah, kingfisher, not on this fence here, but on the second fence. He said it's there quite a bit. So I think it's definitely worth coming back again to have a look. See, I'm shooting with the Rx10 Mark IV today, so that's the zoom. Actually, turned out to be quite a nice day. About a 15-mile-an-hour wind, up about 100 foot anyway, so that's why I took the drone up. I'm getting a little bit more brave flying it now. So for a long time, I've only been sort of going 500, 600 feet away, just because I want to see it. And I've actually just ordered a strobe to stick on the bottom of it so I can see it in the air, because it's very hard to spot, especially when it's low down, when you've got like stuff in the distance, it just disappears. So I want something so at least I know where it is. I know you can see on the camera and everything, but what if you do lose connection or something with the camera? At least you can bring it back. I know you've got the return to home thing, but at least at least you can spot where it is. I mean, you don't have to turn it on. There's a cormorant. A little fly. But yeah, apparently kingfishers this area somewhere, which is good because we've got tons of water. There's banks, which I think is it banks they live in. So it could be a worthwhile visit one early morning. So let's wander back to the car anyway. Gonna find another spot. Might see some swans in a minute. It's a beautiful day, December morning, and I think I'm glad I came out today because it's going to be rubbish till Christmas Day. I think even probably Christmas Day is probably going to be rubbish as well, knowing our luck. But it's a substantial river. I didn't realise it was so big. But yeah, so talking about Christmas, guys. Oh, I need to clean my lens. Blimey, that is definitely needs a clean. That's been down the beach and it's got salt stuff on it. I didn't even look, to be honest. But yeah, basically Christmas coming up, obviously in a week and a bit. What are you hoping for Christmas? Let me know down in the comments. We're still hoping for the Rx10 Mark V, aren't we? Or something that replaces it. We don't know what it's going to be called. It could be the Mark V, it could be something completely different. So who knows, but it'd be interesting to see if Sony actually get their arse in gear and release something. If they do, which I hope, I think it might be something special because the advancement in technology has jumped forward quite a bit in the last 3 years. So there's some more options there that they could utilise and cram into a camera like this. So anyway, let's go have a little walk around here. I'm just going to go to the other side of the bridge here and see what the river's like. And then jump in the car, cruise down the road a bit further, see what else we can find. So that was the view back from where I walked from, back along that river there, and the flooding was over to the right hand side, and then off into the distance. The other side of the bridge is quite a nice view actually. There's quite a few power lines and stuff there crisscrossing over, so I didn't really fly that way just because obviously power lines don't like drones. So I might actually try it another time, but obviously take off further up out of the way a little bit and just be a bit more sensible, just in case. But beautiful day, absolutely stunning. The light was pretty nice, not too cold, not too hot, quite warm in the sun actually. But not much wildlife here at that moment, so I mean, it was sort of late morning, so you're talking 11:30 in the morning, so all the wildlife had obviously done its early feeding and stuff like that and disappeared. Here was just the sun blasting through the fence on the other side of the road. I just thought it looked quite cool. Not particularly amazing photo, but just thought the shadows were really quite impacting. Anyway, so I jumped back in the car and went off to the next location. So I drove around a little bit, couldn't find much, and I thought, wow, my favourite tree. So this is my favourite tree. Sounds really silly to have, but this is such a cool little location. It's not far from the road, but the background in a second when you see it go round is just nothing in the distance. It's absolutely stunning. It's an old oak tree that looks a bit half dead. There's a few dead branches on there that look a bit sorry for themselves, but it's still, you know, gets plenty of leaves on it in the summer. But just in the background there, it's just nothing, so it makes a really good place, you know, to take photos and everything, especially sunsets or late at night, or even actually, well, now with the nice moody sky, it actually looked quite cool. Long shadows from the low sun. It was just pretty cool. So put the drone up quickly. I mean, the wind was getting up as well, but that was all cool. Scared all the birds away that were actually roosting in the trees. Only seagulls and stuff and pigeons. So yeah, it was. Yeah. And the sun was still out, which was nice. So nice little reflections down in the water. You can see where the tractor's been round as well. It was pretty cool. And after some chasing of seagulls, and then following this sort of the tractor tyre tracks, which are all flooded with water, just added a cool, interesting pattern to the ground and everything like that. And obviously the difference between the straight lines slightly off line compared to the rest of the tyre tracks and everything. It was quite interesting. So the crops are all starting to come up already, which is weird considering it's December. I don't know if that's just grass or if it's actually a crop or what, but as you can see here, the mud and everything was pretty grim. The benefits of the drone, I suppose. I don't have to walk onto the mud. I could just fly it across, because that mud was actually doesn't look that much, but it's actually really sticky and horrible. And then back to the car, and then I jumped in the car and off I went to the next location. Obviously, while I was there, I decided obviously get a car shot. It's always good. Surprisingly, I didn't get it stuck in the mud, which was good. Actually happened to be a little bit hardcore under that bit of ground there that I pulled off the road onto. So that was good. This shot here is from the air. It's one of the bits from when I first sort of took off. I just think in black and white it was just a bit more moody. Really brings the tree out. Kind of hides the mud a bit actually, because it just looks a bit dirty and everything. So black and white is quite impacting. And this is one of the shots from the Rx10 Mark IV, which worked really well. And I did a bit of a sort of heavy crop on it, so it's quite wide, which is quite nice. I think that worked quite well. So moved down the road a bit further, found some swans finally, because I knew they were sort of around that area. And as you can see, a little bit of slow motion, 250 frames a second. Still shooting at 600mm. Couldn't get that close to them, sadly, until I managed to walk along the river and they moved a bit closer to me. They were a little bit sort of wary of me. Didn't want to let me too close. As you can see, I have a little bit of a clean and whatever. All these are manual exposure, and just shooting at 600mm roughly in video. Shooting at 4K, and worked really nicely. But as you can hear, the reason I got rid of the sound on this one is because there was people talking, and it's also quite windy, and you'll hear this now. So apart from the swans, I'm just seeing fishes. If I can catch them. There it is. The sun's gone in typically. Actually might help with the focusing a little bit. As you can hear, it's pretty windy, so you know, a bit of voiceover is obviously needed sometimes. But as you can see, stunning swan shooting through a load of the reeds, still autofocusing on the swan itself, no issues whatsoever. And then onto the photos. Natural light is stunning. Shooting, actually, trying to keep the white of the swan quite about right. It's very easy to actually overexpose the whites on their feathers, very easy. So, but what that actually does is, because they're so bright, you actually end up with a darker foreground and background and surrounding area, and actually I think it actually brings it out quite nicely. The lovely reflections as well. But surprisingly how not white a swan is, especially around the neck area. Quite yellow or greeny in places. I'm guessing that's just stains on their feathers, not really sure, but you know, it's as you can see, it's quite grubby around the back of its face and everything like that, around its neck. But there was only 2 of them, but you know, they hang around while I managed to get some shots of them, so it was really nice. The weather was beautiful, the light was lovely and soft, and it just worked really nicely. Here's a cropping of the reflection part of that image, which I thought was quite interesting. And so imagine how much ripples they actually create. So actually, when you look further down the river, it was actually less messy as such. As you can see here, you've got a big circle of ripples around them. And, yeah, it was pretty cool. And like I say, the light was absolutely lovely. Kept going behind a cloud every now and again, but not too often. And then this is the versatility of this camera. So 24mm back a second ago, now we're at about 200, something like that. And then right up to 600 when I basically take out the left hand swan. So basically just focus on him, and that's a crop in. Just shows you how sharp it is and the detail. There you go. Quite difficult because I'm actually shooting into the sun, so the feathers are slightly over on the left hand side, but it was a bit of a compromise between having more face sort of exposure than sort of not. So could have ended up as a silhouette shot rather than a shot like that. So this shot I really like. He's looking back at me just as he cruised off. They sort of cruised off down the river a little bit, not very fast, but just a lovely photo. And I actually really like it in black and white. Very rarely do I see or like black and white wildlife shots, and I think they're kind of a bit not that common anymore. So anyway guys, that's that. What a lovely morning out, really lovely. Glad I got to fly the drone again as well, and you know, utilising both of those bits of equipment absolutely brilliantly. So anyway, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and I shall see you soon with another video.